The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah, good morning, everybody. That's right, it is Friday, May 23rd. And today is National Taffy Day today, you guys.
Oh, Taffy is one of my favorite candies. Always has been since I was a kid.
Yes, what about the Laffy Taffy?
Oh, yeah, dude, with the really bad dad jokes on the side.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
I'm all here for the dad jokes all day, every day.
I got a good one for you.
Oh, yeah? What you got?
What do runners eat before a race?
What do they?
Ketchup.
Oh, very.
There's a
very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. It's also National Lucky Penny Day.
Penny. Mm-hmm. What even is that?
Lucky penny?
Like when you find one?
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. Let me. Here we go, Jesse. Here we go down the rabbit hole. Let's see. Friday. Boom. Lucky Penny Day. National Lucky Penny Day. We are hoping you'll have good luck all day long. Heads or tails, it doesn't matter which side you find your penny. Years ago, a penny was able to buy something. To see what you used to get for a penny. You used to be able to get some taffy back in the day for a penny, and today due to inflation, the penny does not buy much of anything. The metal value and cost of minting pennies exceed their face value, and many nations have stopped minting equivalent value coins, and efforts are being made to end the routine use of pennies in several countries, including the United States.
Brandon nailed it. I looked it up. Brandon Krieger in the comments. He said lucky penny is when you find the penny heads up. So it's a found penny if it's heads up.
Well, it says in here, it says,
and if it's tails up, it could be bad luck.
It says in here, it says right here on the internet, it says heads or tails. Does, you know what I'm saying? Does it? Oh, okay. It's asking as a question. It says heads. It says on May 23rd is National Lucky Penny Day, and we are hoping you'll have good luck all day long. Heads or tails. Doesn't matter which side you find your penny. So I guess that's a personal thing. It's a personal thing.
Yeah, okay. So hopefully everybody finds a penny today.
And today it's also National Cooler Day today, you guys. We're getting ready for Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend. That makes sense. Fill the coolers up.
Yeah, fill the coolers up. Exactly. It's also National Don't Fry Day. On Friday. Yeah, like don't get burnt by the sun. Like make sure you use some, SPF 15 basically is.
I was going to say back in the day we used to
Jesse needs that 50.
Take an LSD frying.
No, that's not the type of frying they're talking about, Jesse.
Okay.
No, they're talking about frying in the sun, Jesse, baking.
Oh, don't fry. Okay. Yeah.
Way to make it about drugs, Jesse. Way to make it about drugs.
I mean, you should have known Jesse was going to try to do something like that.
Literally.
Yeah, but it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are going to kick it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice impaired individuals get their life back on track. And that's right, it is none other than America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
I want to get my dad joke off, Jason.
Oh boy, here we go. Go for it, Jenny. Get your dad joke off. Yeah.
A Laffy Taffy joke?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Why do ducks have feathers?
Why do ducks have feathers?
To cover up their butt quacks.
That's cute. That's cute. That's cute. Very.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so here we go, and I'm glad that both the doctors are here. Hey, Dr. Mark, all dressed out in his baseball. He's ready for America's game. I love it. Let's go. All right, I'm a Braves girl. I'm a Braves girl, so we're gonna fight. But I actually was sitting with the grandfather of the fiance of the guy who pitched for you guys the other day. Got called up for his first game from the minors, and tied the franchise record. So that was amazing. Got MVP first game. So funny baseball stat. All right, so Jason, a new scientific review is calling into question the reliability of oral fluid testing for cannabis use and impairment. According to meta-analysis published in the journal Helion, oral fluid or OF tests do not reliably indicate when cannabis was last consumed or whether a person is currently impaired. Researchers from the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research at the University of Victoria reviewed 7 studies involving 116 participants. They found significant inconsistencies in THC levels, even among subjects who consumed the same amount of cannabis. In some cases, test results showed unusually high THC concentrations that couldn't be explained. The study also noted that individuals who smoke cannabis are far more likely to test positive than those who consume edibles. And some people can test positive more than 24 hours after use, well past the point of intoxication. The authors concluded that oral fluid tests are not valid for detecting prior use or determining impairment, especially at the commonly used threshold of 1 nanogram per milliliter. Despite these findings, federal transportation regulators in 2023 approved oral fluid testing as an alternative to urine tests for commercial drivers, though the policy has not yet been implemented in federal workplaces. Advocacy group NORML continues to push back against the THC detection in saliva, blood, or urine as a measure of impairment. Instead, they support performance-based testing like Druid or Alert Meter, which assess a person's cognitive functions in real time. The full study, titled Concentrations of Delta-9 THC in Oral Fluid at Different Points of Time After Use, is available at Helion. Additional information can be found on NORML's fact sheet and workplace policies. So this is interesting as we continue to bring cannabis farther into the forefront. Workplaces are obviously concerned, especially when we're looking at truckers and looking at people being impaired on the job as well as people driving on our streets being impaired, maybe a little. So I throw it back to you guys, but it seems like we still don't have quite the right metric, but the one that's approved has definitely been poo-pooed already. So I'll throw it back to you guys. I definitely want to hear what the doctors think and how do we actually quantify this?
Oh boy, Jenny Beth Dills. I love this story, and this story just proves everything that I say all the time. So I'm a big fan of it. What do you guys say, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, well, impairment is one thing, I mean, like with alcohol, for example, there's the correlation between driver impairment and blood alcohol content is undeniable. And because there's such a long, rich history and, looking at that, scientifically and over a wide demographic. So, heavy drinkers to light drinkers, even where they could actually measure impairment with someone who just has like one cocktail. You could already like certain delays and certain motor responses. So, yeah, I mean, alcohol, it's just a completely different beast, and they can't treat cannabis in the same way. And until they have, the statistical correlation to actual impairment, right, which they actually scientifically can determine on cannabis use, this is all just bullshit because they don't know where to set the threshold. With alcohol, it's been long established, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just until they do that study with cannabis users and probably, again, just like with alcohol, with light users and with heavy users, to really be able to statistically significantly correlate cannabis use to driving impairment, it's all just bullshit. Right, Dr. T? Am I not thinking about this in the right way? I mean, you have to almost separate the biological process of intoxication, if you will. I'm just using that term just loosely. In this case, the partial agonizing of the CB1 receptor, right, by THC, which brings on the stoned effect, if you will, right? That's what makes you high, right?
Right.
So when you say your buddies, hey, let's go kill some brain cells, you're actually just doing quite the opposite, because we know that cannabis and cannabinoids in general promote growth of new brain cells. So you could say we're out agonizing our CB1 receptors. But Dr. T, right, until we actually have like a correlation between cannabis use and driving impairment, isn't this just all bullshit?
Yeah, I mean, and sorry, my camera's not working today, but the assumption that THC or the other cannabinoids works like alcohol is just the wrong assumption, and often we see that with legislators. They just don't apply the science to it. Cannabinoids act like fats. They don't act like alcohol, which is not a fat. And so to assume that it will have the same or similar properties, there are people who take 100 milligram dose and are able to drive based on their experience, their metabolism, and their tolerance. And there are people who shouldn't drive on 5 milligram dose. And so it's not going to be that simple. You have to go back to the effect. What do you have? Delayed coordination? Do you have delayed reaction time, et cetera? You have to go back.
Are you more distracted when, like some people, when they're high, they're more distracted? Okay.
Yeah.
So if they're more distracted by like something they see alongside the road, yeah, they might be more prone to getting into an accident because they're just not paying attention. Sometimes like if you drive and you're stoned, you're like, oh my God, 100 miles just went by. And it's like, I feel like it's like just 5 minutes ago, you're like, right? But you'd almost like to think, Jason, that in some patients or just users, that actually their driving skills get better when they're high.
See,
right?
I believe my driving skills are better. I believe that they're better because I'm calmer. Yeah. I'm calmer.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen
Jason, you drive like an asshole no matter what.
See what I have to deal with, you guys?
Yeah, but you choose it because you love me. I'm bestie.
Boy.
There's so many problems with this story to me. One is what you guys, the doctors, just pointed out, like the ability to dilute these substances in your mouth or in your breath and change the test by eating some fats or drinking some water or various things that you could do. That's one thing. Another another thing is I have seen people who were really drunk pass the field sobriety test and walk away with it without a DUI. I've seen that personally. And so there's, as you pointed out, Dr. T, there's this like personal body chemistry and capabilities. Someone who drinks every day or smokes every day, all day, is probably not impaired to the point of someone who rarely ever drinks or smokes. And what it does once in a while, and you get radically high or radically drunk from just a very small amount. So there's that. The other thing that I find that's interesting that's never brought up about this in any of the stories ever is how many people are on prescription drugs. from Prozac to Valium to like, there are so many prescription drugs that people are on and taking and driving, especially if they're over 45, and it goes when they're over 60, the numbers get crazy. Like something like 80% of all people over 65 are on some form of pretty intense medication, and they are driving. And those people to me are way scarier than somebody who's drank a little or smoked a little, and I see them on the road. I see them. They're the most distracted. They swerve the most. They do the weirdest things on the road. They're not paying attention. They change lanes randomly, all kinds of stuff.
It's funny you say that, because my Aunt Linda yesterday, she had her driving test, like her actual physical driving test, not the written test, the actual physical test, and she passed it yesterday.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Get out of here. So.
I thought for sure we don't have to worry about Aunt Linda going to the casino. I'm kidding,
no.
Aunt Linda. I'm kidding. We love you so much. Your Aunt Linda is one of my favorite people.
She's fantastic. I said. So the person that passed you on your test, I said, how old were they? Were they younger? Were they middle aged, or were they your same age? And she said, same age, with a smiley face.
You know what? You know what? Shout out to Aunt Linda. Let's go.
Go get it.
Yeah, y'all
better move over.
Yeah,
Aunt Linda's coming.
Yeah, exactly. Get it. Watch out, Northern California.
I just still think it's very interesting that we're so focused on cannabis and alcohol, but there's a very large percentage of the population of America that's on a prescription drug and driving every day and making the roads more dangerous. And there's literally no concern about that at all. No,
there definitely is. I personally know someone, and he absolutely should have gotten said DUI. The mugshot looks fucking crazy. But he literally got pulled over, and he's like, I take lithium and Xanax every day, and you guys are fucking with me, and blah, blah, blah. He was whacked out of his head. This happened back in Montauk. Was completely whacked out of his head. You can find him on Selling the Hamptons. But anyway, that should have happened. That should have happened. You can't, by the legal definition of, the laws of the road, being too tired is impairment.
That's
right?
what they say.
So, yeah, they do. But the fact that these studies don't address it is a problem, Jesse. And one thing that popped out to me in the article was they were saying, varying amounts contained in their mouth, right? Some people had unusually high concentrations. So in DUI defense, there's something called mouth alcohol. How do I know? Well, hi, nice to meet you. I lost a filling and then I got a DUI behind it. So, if you're missing something, like Denton absorbs and holds things, right? So like I blew aggressively high for the 2 White Claws that I'd had that whole evening, and it stayed aggressively high for an egregious amount of time. Well, that's not my body. That's not the fact that I'm not a big person. Obviously, I metabolize things fairly quickly. I'm not, it's not my first day having a cocktail. So none of those things would make sense. But I wonder, and this is kind of a question for the doctors, is there something to that argument kind of that could work with THC concentration as well? Kind of like that mouth alcohol thing where it's just literally held in dentin that's exposed or something like that.
Exactly.
Do you have any of the doctors have any answers for that?
Well, are you just talking about like what remains in kind of like your oral, like exhale? Like, can you smell alcohol on your breath? Is that what you're talking about?
No. So like mouth alcohol, the theory is like if you say you lose a filling, right? So you have exposed dentin, which is a porous material, right?
Okay.
Then it will hold the substance longer.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm a big proponent of, testing for impairment, walk the straight line, recite the alphabet, do all, I mean, can this individual operate a car? It's like, okay, like, how the fuck do you get home from the bar? You have a cocktail with dinner and like a couple, tapas or some snacks or something like that. You're going to have alcohol in your dentin, I mean, I remember when my parents would come home from, being out at dinner and I'd be able to smell booze on my mom and dad's breath. I mean, it's like, that doesn't mean that they were stone drunk and they couldn't operate a vehicle. I mean, that's why we need to totally separate impairment from, some physical thing like that. Yeah, there was some school or some researchers that were at a college that got awarded some grant to study like the saliva test for THC. And I guess what it was, yeah, there was some, I guess, things that are left in your mouth after you've smoked that quickly go away. And so you can tell like how soon somebody consumed. And so immediately they're like, oh, we could turn that into a breathalyzer. Well, okay, but that doesn't mean that the person can't drive the fucking vehicle, right? I mean, impairment is one thing. Having weed smell, or in this case, alcohol smell on your breath is just something else, It doesn't mean that you can't operate a vehicle.
Fair enough.
I think we solve all this with autonomous vehicles. That's just...
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, then autonomous vehicles are just going to turn into the new nightclubs nowadays, since nightclubs are losing so much money.
Well, I don't know about that, Jason, because I saw some kids on a bicycle trapped a Waymo that was making a 3-point turn. They just sat a yellow orange traffic cone in front of it, and that Waymo was stuck.
That is very funny. I'm not mad at that. And shout out to those kids. Speaking of that, we're going to run into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out.
Are we back on?
And we are
beautiful face.
Yeah, and we are back, you guys. And man.
Oh boy, next up. You know what, Jason? You just got to pause sometimes, You just got to be patient.
I am. Extremely.
Yeah. Up next, the highest Republican, the shortest of stature.
Stop it.
The most impatient, and my best friend, the High at 9 News head honcho, Jason Beck.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. And thank you to everybody that served over the years. We do appreciate all your service, because you give us the ability to talk about things like this. Because the Nebraska Medical Marijuana Commission appointees get a mixed recommendations from their committee, you guys. That's right. The Nebraska Legislature Committee overseeing the governor's appointments to the Medical Marijuana Commission had a lot of questions for the two picks. The testimony of L'Oreal Muting and Monica Oldenburg came 2 days after Nebraska lawmakers rejected a bill to regulate medical marijuana. Governor Jim Pillen wants Mutig and Oldenburg to help create the rules and regulations for medical cannabis, but opponents point out that both women have testified against medical cannabis in the past. Not surprising. Once debate wrapped, the General Affairs Committee voted to present the legislature with a 5-3 vote in favor of Oldenburg and a 4-4 split vote on Mutling. The committee will submit those recommendations to the clerk of the legislature so it can go before the full unicam, and the earliest a vote can happen is on Wednesday. The latest would be Monday, June 2nd, the last day of the regular session. If approved, the pair will join the 3 members of the State Liquor Commission to form the newly created Nebraska Medical Marijuana Commission. Muting told the committee on Thursday that she isn't planning to be an obstacle in the regulation process. In a quote says, "The voters have spoken. Medical marijuana is what people in Nebraska voted for. I don't view my role in this to try to squash it because I don't have the power to do that," she said. Dr. Monica Oldenburg spoke about the concerns over the appointment, and a quote says, "I think we need to look at research, and there is some research with some of these conditions that show that it helps," she said. That is going to be on the commission, with collaborating with both the public, Nebraska Medical Society, other physicians, and saying, where is our research going? Is this a good condition to help with, she says. State Senator John Kavanaugh of Omaha, who is also the committee's vice chairperson, asked Mulig how she came to be on the appointment list, and in a quote says, "I don't know. I don't know exactly how the governor got my name, but when they started a medical CBD board in Iowa, I always thought it would be important to have a prevention perspective on the board. Prevention and treatment perspective on the board, but I don't live in Iowa, so I could never apply," she answered. So, well, it sounds like we got a couple prohibitionists up there in Nebraska that are going to be joining the board as far as the governor's picks on this, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Is this going to be good, going to be bad? I don't see how it's going to be good, but I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this.
No shit. There's prohibitionists in Nebraska. Also, Dr. Mark, is that a Scramble Campbell behind you? Because I think it is, and I love it.
That is
I
the Scramble
love it.
Campbell.
I love
That
it.
is the, check this out. So just digress for a moment. That's myself, and that's my wife, and that's my friend Jeff, and that's my friend Linda. This was from Fish.
Hold on a second. Anthony, we need to transition. Fest. Hold on a second, Dr. Mark. People can't see what you're talking about. Give it a second. No, we need to transition to yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so this is a Scramble Campbell from 2014 Jazz Fest in New Orleans. That's Fish. Band called Fish. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what I just said to him, I pretty much just exposed myself as an undercover wook, but yeah.
we all know that you're a wook.
I love it. Very cool.
Yeah, look up Scramble Campbell. He's a performance art painter who paints at Red Rocks a lot and really wild cat out on the scene.
Yeah, he's dope. You can find him. He's the one covered in paint.
Oh, that's funny.
It's true.
That's funny.
It's true. All right, so Nebraska. Yeah, I mean, Jason, what's going to happen in Nebraska? I mean, like we keep seeing start, stop, wait, back up 3 steps, don't pass go, don't collect $200, go straight to jail. And I feel like that's pretty much what's happening in a lot of these states that are going back and forth right now.
I mean, I'm curious what the doctors have to say about this. The fact that they have these ladies that are getting appointed, and it doesn't sound like they've had a lot of other favorable things to say in the past in relation to, see, yeah, exactly. I feel you, Dr. Mark. I feel you. I feel exactly where you're coming from. I feel exactly, that gesture says 1,000 words. Dr. T, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I this is just politics to me, and it doesn't make sense a lot of times what they think when they set up these regulations. Even in California, the people have voted for this, decades ago, but we still have a government that puts hurdles in our way. And for some reason, I think they're just responding to other people who are stakeholders in other industries that are getting affected by the cannabis industry.
Yeah, very, very true. I mean, do you I wonder, because I liked how she kind of downplayed her statement when she said, oh, I don't really have the power to stop anything or whatnot. It's like, lady, you're a vote on the commission and you guys talk to one another. So like the fact that you don't have the power to stop things or the power to implement things is just kind of, a little ridiculous that you're going to kind of take that type of a stance and with a general comment. But, you have any final thoughts on this, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind that there's 2 doctors who are somewhat skeptical or even a lot skeptical of cannabis and what's going on if it was balanced, but it doesn't seem like it's balanced by anything. Yeah. Seems like this board is kind of all kind of anti-cannabis, and why you're trying to regulate medical marijuana in a state that's brand new and you're all against it. Doesn't make any sense. There's got to be somebody who understands the plant, knows what's going on, and knows how to promote it. Why?
Sounds like it's destined to fail from the beginning.
Well, it's a state next to Colorado, which was one of the more progressive states in the West. And so you'd think that there'd be, enough crosstalk just over state lines. But
oh no,
was it Kansas or was Nebraska?
Nebraska, they used to pull you over just for having Colorado plates during that time.
Or if you had East Coast plates and you were heading east, they would pull you over.
Well, I mean, that's just like usually if you have California plates, you know what I mean, and you're heading east in any state, they're going to pull you over.
Right, and they used to say that there's a mandatory search up the road, and the actual search was at that exit just before that mandatory search, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody would get off at the exit, try to stash their shit, and that's where the sheriff was, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of those towns, they'll tell you it's just a money-making scheme.
It is.
Like, we know you went to Colorado, you bought a trunk full of weed, and now we're going to fucking bust you. And yeah, it's so, I don't know, Kansas and Nebraska and those states next to Colorado were always those staunch prohibition states. But I do believe that you could still find fields of feral hemp growing through both those states because they used to grow hemp, a long time ago there.
Well, we're talking about the state. Sorry. Yeah. We're talking about the state that literally put up signs on the freeway that said it's legal in Colorado. It's not here.
Yep.
Right. And alongside the freeway in a ditch, there's going to be a bunch of hemp growing.
Exactly.
Make it make sense.
Well, on that, we're going to roll right into Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He's the founder of the CESC and of Medican, where you can get your cannabis recommendations online, or you could even see him in person if you're up in Northern California. That's right, it is none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Happy Friday, everyone. You get to see my more beautiful correspondent rather than me today, but that's okay. Happy Friday. And my headline today is from the Utah News Dispatch. Utah medical cannabis patient count reaches 100,000 ahead of prescription pop-up ban by Elixir Cabrera. 5 years after medical cannabis became available in Utah after being legalized by voters, the program, while still controversial, keeps on growing. This year, the state counted over 100,000 medical cannabis cardholders, a new peak in the program's 5-year existence. Members of the Utah Patients Coalition, a plant medicine advocacy group, which lobbied hard to help pass the 2018 referendum that allowed the medical cannabis program in deeply conservative Utah, see the milestone as a demonstration that the system to obtain a card is getting easier to navigate. Desiree Hennessy, executive director at the Utah Patients Coalition, said on Monday, the growth in 2025 has been encouraging just because we have seen a lot of patients struggling in the past. And every year we go back to the legislative session, we go back to our platforms with education and just try to remove some of those barriers. Up until this month, pharmacies were allowed to partner with clinics that have medical providers qualified to prescribe medical cannabis to host card drives, a sort of pop-up clinic in pharmacies' parking lot in which doctors could see patients and issue cards often at a discount. Those partnerships allowed cards, which are good for up to a year, to go from a regular $200 to about $75, Hennessy said. This year, we lost the ability to allow pharmacies to do that. So now no longer can somebody write a card within 500 feet of a pharmacy unless they're in their own business. By the way, pharmacy is dispensary here, she said. And so it's really not going to hurt anybody that's middle class or higher. But those patients struggling with finances that use these card drives, Senate Bill 64's House floor sponsor, Representative Walt Brooks, told House members about the change. If someone is a qualified medical professional, they can't go to a pop-up tent in front of the marijuana pharmacy to give cards. We want to make sure we are not producing a recreational environment. Patients can go to their regular care physician, hopefully not get charged any more than a copay, and have this medical cannabis conversation with their doctor, she said. While advocates celebrate the numbers, the program remains a contentious point among Utahns. with some still protesting the annual technical bills, arguing that the state shouldn't allow cannabis at all. But ultimately, Hennessy hopes that the medical cannabis patients get to be treated like those receiving any other treatment. Especially, she said, since the program has been demonstrated to lower rates of opioid use and opioid-related deaths, according to a study by Management Science Associates in partnership with Dragonfly Wellness, a medical cannabis pharmacy. We do believe that there's a lot of good that can come of using medical cannabis as a first-line drug and not as a second or third or fourth when everything else fails, Hennessy said. But we could use this first and treat a lot of conditions with a lot less risk than other medications that patients are now using. I imagine what might happen if California never passed Prop 64 and rather followed a path similar to Utah. Would we have better quality products? Would we have a healthier public using cannabis with intention? I don't know, but I applaud Utah for taking the slow but steady route to cannabis legalization. I think the turtle might win the race on this one. This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News.
Dr. T, so this study is basically the ban is on these pop-up type of clinics where they're giving patients their recommendations. Am I correct on that?
That's Utah just every year they review their medical cannabis laws and try to improve it. And this is a ban. You remember back in the day there were pop-up docs everywhere that happened, and some considered Medican a pop-up compared to what it was before. So, and then we were concerned about that and tried to shut some of them down, had qualities. So they're going through the same thing that we did years ago.
I feel like it just needs to be rebranded as a satellite office as opposed to being called a pop-up, and then maybe we could have a loophole right there.
I know you're fond of the loophole.
Jason operates in the loophole. Well, he's small to fit through the loophole. You know what I mean? So
go ahead, Dr. Mark.
They had those at the Cannabis Cup up in Santa Rosa, right? For all of us out of staters who needed to get like a temporary card, just to go to the Cannabis Cup to consume, right? So we're all out there, being examined by some pot doc in the parking lot before being allowed to go to the consumption area.
I'm not mad at that.
Little ass was told they couldn't do that because the Emerald Cup tried to do that a few years ago, and they were like, "Oh no, the hell!" Because they were trying to make it an 18 and up event, and if you were 18, you could go to the little doctor stand. And the city of Santa Rosa and the state were like, "The fuck you said? Absolutely not." And so, I think I don't know. This is part of my frustration with if you look at Florida for a great example. These pill mill doctors are like, oh shit, I can just, flip over to start writing cannabis recommendations. And I think that's a lot of the reason why people don't take medical cannabis seriously, right? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I got my first card in Colorado for my back hurting from cheerleading in college. And it did. Did it? I don't know, but maybe. But I got it. And I got a freaking 99 plant count. And those shits were expensive back in the day. So, I think that we need to actually transition more into, if we're going to actually have a medicinal focused sector of the industry, we need to actually focus on patients and continuation of care. My doctor's not going to give me Vicodin and say, all right, I'll see you next year. They're going to say, I'll see you in a month. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Let's adjust dosage. Let's actually have some kind of care and some kind of tracking and something real going on here, as opposed to, shit, I can charge out of pocket for this and I can just rack up a bunch of money. I'm game. I think that's the frustrating portion for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jenny. And I also think that there are not many physicians out there who are trained in giving advice on cannabis. They don't know much about the plant. And so they give sort of, allopathic propaganda, single agent kind of thoughts. But so we need more training on our end in order to be sort of the appropriate gatekeeper, if that's going to happen.
Right. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Dr. T, I'm wondering, does this kind of policy actually force doctors to do a little research when they're having these kinds of conversations with their patients, or they're forced to at least get some knowledge where they had none before?
That's kind of what they said in the article, is that she's like, every year we come back with data, because we don't have much data on cannabis use. We come back with data and we give it to the legislator and we adjust our rules based on data. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they're collecting data at least.
So in that sense, I'm a fan of the slow roll in these states like this, where they do a medical program and they go really slow and they're not rushing to go into an adult use program, because it just seems to make sense. I mean, we know what Prop 64 and all the bills like it in various other states have done to the cannabis market overall. And like before Prop 64, the cannabis market in California was amazing. And now we're full of regret 7-8 years later. And, I think it's smart to go slow. And it seems like that this would cause that doctors, it might take years, but the doctors are going to slowly become more educated because they're forced to have these conversations with their patients. And their patients probably know more about it than they do.
Yep. I see you shaking your head, Dr. T.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. We have to learn from the community who has found this plant medicine. I mean, we are so bad at plant medicine to begin with. So it could really change how doctors think about treatment, from both pharmaceuticals as well as plant drugs, and how to combine those, because clearly the public's benefiting a lot from plant drugs. We've got to learn more.
Yeah, fair enough. Shout out to plant drugs. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back. Yes, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And also, remember, go ahead and in the description, check out all of our sponsors and use the link below to order yourself a can or a case of Liberal Tears sent directly to your doors. 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can and no sugar at all, which will make the doctors happy as well.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back, you guys.
All right, you guys get out your little notebooks. His baseball taste is bad, but his knowledge is good. And it ain't nothing changed but the gate code, according to Dr. Mark Scialdone.
Muted.
You're on mute, Dr. Mark. There we go.
There you go.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Perfect, buddy. Yep.
Thank you, Jenny, and happy Friday, everyone. Hope you're having a good week. It's Memorial Day weekend, right? Most of us have Monday off.
Well, we'll still have a show on Monday.
useful. It's so cool to live on a lake because you just see it come to life at this time of year. So there's some fishermen out here. God knows what they're fishing for. But you start seeing sailboats go by and people just enjoying the lake and enjoying the summer weather. So this is kind of like the kickoff to summer. So I hope you got some great plans this summer. I hope they include cannabis. So my story today at the High at 9 is medical marijuana could increase efficacy of chemotherapy to fight cancer while reducing side effects, study suggests. So this sounds like old news, but it's always good to hear this again, re-emphasized, right? That cannabis and cannabinoids in general can help you fight cancer. So cannabinoids in medical marijuana can increase both the efficacy of chemotherapy drugs and also maintain the often uncomfortable side effects, or I'm sorry, not maintain, but minimize the often uncomfortable side effects of conventional cancer treatment, such as chemotherapy, according to a new scientific review based on some available evidence. The 23-page paper published online this month in the journal Pharmacology and Therapeutics assesses a range of clinical and preclinical findings that mainly relate to the combination treatments for glioblastoma, hematological malignancies, and breast cancer, just to name a few of the cancer types that they've looked at. So to summarize, says the report, the data to date raise the prospects that cannabinoids may increase the efficacy of chemotherapeutic agents while reducing their unwanted side effects. It notes that preclinical studies on specific cancer, anti-cancer effects of cannabinoids are limited, but looking mostly at whether those compounds are toxic to cancer cells. Other researchers point out that including the immune system, cannabinoids have an effect on angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels, and also on cancer metastasis, which is the spreading of cancer throughout the body. Some of this work is still pending, and overall, while the interactions between cannabinoids and chemotherapeutics consist of a complex subject with many unknown variables, two important relevant therapeutic aspects, the interactions between cannabinoids and chemotherapeutic agents that could potentially benefit cancer patients. Firstly, the systemic potentiation of chemotherapeutics by cannabis. And what that means is that the cannabis or the cannabinoids would make the chemotherapeutic agents work better or work more efficiently, primarily leading to the extension of life by overcoming therapy-resistant varieties, and also, secondly, by the reduction of the chemotherapy introduced side effects. So I'm sure Dr. T would agree that chemotherapy in general has really devastating effects on most of the systems in your body, including reduction of appetite. So again, maybe cannabis can help just the same way it did with HIV in encouraging patients to eat and replenish calories. The new paper was authored by a pair of researchers at the Institute of Pharmacology and Toxicology at Rostock University Medical Center in Germany. The first portion of the review was focusing on the efficacy of cannabinoid or efficacy of chemotherapeutics in combinations with cannabinoids, and looked for a large part at a 2021 phase 1B clinical trial involving the use of THC CBD oral spray. I'll bet you that's Sativex, which showed that patients had a longer survival time when the spray was combined with the drug temozolomide. I think I'm saying that right, Dr. T. Temozolomide. Does that sound right to you? Anyway, it's a chemotherapeutic agent. It also discusses a variety of cannabis and other cancers, including blood and bone marrow cancers, leukemia, breast cancer, skin cancer, bladder cancer, and pancreatic cancer, gynecological cancers, colorectal cancers, and numerous others. Geez, these guys are definitely covering the map here. Second portion examines cannabinoid therapy in the treatment for chemotherapy's side effects, primarily nausea. In addition to this well-known anti-emetic effect, that's again something that basically quells nausea or the gag reflex. An increasing number of preclinical studies discussed in this review have shown that in recent years, cannabinoids have also had a positive effect on other side effects of chemotherapy, such as chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy, nephrotoxicity, cardiotoxicity, cystis, and mucocystis. I think I'm saying those names right. While the report deals in less depth with other cancer-related symptoms, it notes that cannabinoids can also be administered to relieve cancer-related chronic pain. Taken together, the interaction with cannabinoids with currently used chemotherapeutic agents in the context of tumor therapies is considerable of clinical importance, and there should be several reasons for the use of cannabinoids in tumor therapies, it says. One matter that the author said that needs further investigation is the potential for negative interactions between cannabinoids and chemotherapy and other drugs. Noting that several interactions are theoretically possible, but we have not yet investigated as well as look to see what speculative results do exist in the literature between some of these drug interactions between cannabinoids and chemotherapeutic agents. However, they added that it is possible that cannabinoids trigger unknown interactions that benefit the patients. Questions remain around the extent of which the route of administration influences the interaction with chemotherapeutic agents, particularly in the case of cannabinoids, where widespread practice of smoking is a major influencing factor. Overall, well-controlled clinical trials are urgently needed on various types of tumors in order to establish cannabinoids as additional medication against cancer and existing chemotherapies, the report concludes. Likewise, the extensive preclinical available data on the interaction of cannabinoids with chemotherapeutic agents at the tumor cell level should be extended to include studies that on the effects of these combinations on tumor progression, such as anti-angiogenesis therapies, invasion therapies, and metastasis as well. Paper closes with the reminder that while all humans have used cannabis for millennia, our ability to scientifically study the plant's effects on the body is only decades old. Although cannabinoids have been used in some form or other for tens of thousands of years, it says, it has only been possible to systematically study their pharmacology mechanisms of action since the discovery of the endocannabinoid system in the early 1990s. Accordingly, they may still hold some undiscovered therapeutically relevant effects on tumor progression and development. Separately, U.S.-based researchers last month published a report, and we covered this on the High at 9 News, which was the largest metadata analysis conducted on medical cannabis and its effect on cancer-related symptoms, and find overwhelmingly by consensus that marijuana does have positive effects. So I'll stop there. I mean, we've covered this topic before on High at 9 News. I think, Dr. T, you've maybe brought up some of the cases that you've treated over the years. We do know that cannabinoids do have antioxidant effect. They have anti-inflammatory effects. These all can benefit a cancer patient depending on what kind of cancer. We've noted their antioxidant effects, in particular the fact that they are fat-soluble antioxidants, so they end up protecting the fatty tissues in your body, such as your brain and your pancreas and your liver, from oxidative damage because there are fat-soluble antioxidants that are stored in those tissues. So I think this article points out a very interesting aspect, which is that they can be used in combination with conventional chemotherapeutic agents to make them work better. So maybe they would use less of the chemotherapeutic agents, and maybe they would be something that can be used in combination, not only to make the chemotherapeutic agents work better, but to also alleviate some of the inherent symptoms of being on chemotherapy. So that's my story today from the lovely shores of Lake Champlain up here in Vermont. I'd be interested in what Dr. T has to say. Dr. T, we've talked about this issue on High at 9, and I know we're both in agreement that certainly cannabis does play a role in cancer therapy for patients.
Absolutely, and you're so right. I mean, the most important point you made is this is old news.
Yes.
And I mean,
but we like hearing it again. We like hearing it again.
Yeah, but what it highlights is that we should be a lot further down the road. These are people who are dying, that we're trying to change the course of their life, and we're sort of twiddling our thumbs about it. I looked up on the site, you know, and NIH is split up into many subgroups. One of them is one that's geared toward complementary and alternative medicine, and they're promoting more cannabis-based research, but National Cancer Institute or the subdivision, the cancer subdivision of the NIH, they're still kind of they're still dragging their feet. It looks like they're focused on symptoms of you know, having cancer, pain, or chemotherapy, nausea, but not really about targeting the actual tumors and getting them reduced. And I wonder what Biden's doing, because there's a great paper on CBD and prostate cancer. I would definitely recommend it to him as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, I totally agree with you, and you know, it's interesting because with my mom passing from cancer, she was gonna get ready to start her third round of chemo. Or because basically she had fought the cancer she fought the cancer twice and went into remission, and then this was her third time getting it again, and she was going to be, her doctor talked her into doing the chemotherapy, but I was also able to talk her into trying cannabis, and she was supposed to start the cannabis regimen and chemo on the 12th of this month, and so but she didn't make it that long.
Yeah. And it would have been great if we had something sooner for her. That's you know what I keep thinking as we see patients leave us.
Most definitely. Jesse, what do you guys say on this, Jesse?
Yeah, what the doctor said. This is old news. Kind of fortunately and unfortunately at the same time. I mean, it's great that we've known this for a long time, and for the doctors that do know and are able to use this as an additional treatment for cancer patients, that's really awesome. It's very unfortunate that more doctors don't understand the power of cannabis when it comes to cancer, and we need to spread the word.
It's going to take papers like this and presentations at professional meetings and discussions for us to win people over. I mean, science doesn't care where the molecules came from. And you know, if these are effective treatments for treating cancer, and maybe even preventative in a way, Dr. T, I've always talked about this, like, you know, the fact that these are fat-soluble antioxidants, and that our body has basically evolved a way of holding on to these compounds for as long as we possibly can, because they're so valuable to us, because they fight, again, free radicals that often lead to chromosomal damage in your DNA and stuff like that can lead to cancer. And the fact that it promotes something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, which is like when cells are no longer viable and they're no longer useful, those cells are killed and they go away. And this angiogenesis thing is super important because if you cut off a tumor's blood supply, you basically starve the tumor and it goes away. And it also can prevent metastasis because that's how tumor cells get, like in President Biden's case, he originally had not testicular, but prostate cancer that then spread to the bone. Unfortunately, just to share a moment of sadness here in my own life, I lost an uncle this week. My dad's youngest brother passed away at 79 years old. Here's to you, Uncle Eugene. He died of multiple myeloma and went down very, very quickly. He was a lifelong cigarette smoker, Jason. And he didn't actually die from lung cancer, but it was from multiple myeloma. But they ended up finding that the cancer had basically spread all throughout his body. So again, just going back to that point of angiogenesis, if you could control the way that tumors basically reroute vascular plumbing, feed it with a fresh blood supply, it's a very effective way. And cannabinoids do that because a lot of that cellular signaling that happens in the extracellular matrix happens by things like vascular endothelial growth factors and other things like that that are all interacting with the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, most definitely. Man, sorry for your loss, Dr. Mark. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where do I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
He was gone.
Wow, that's fast.
And we are back, you guys.
Oh, come on. The Ginger Grandpa Ninja on the High at 9 News. Gwen Barney's husband and the founder of Barney Design Co. Jesse Barney.
Nice. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I love that you're adding in Gwen Barney's husband. That's the best notch in my belt for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of, it is her birthday today.
No way. Happy birthday, Gwen.
Happy birthday, Gwen.
Yes. Yeah. Man.
She's out.
That's
she's
awesome.
out getting her hair did, or maybe finished already.
She's finished. She's in the chat. She's a fellow Gemini. I love this.
Her hair
Maybe she might be sitting and waiting for the next step. So
Fair enough.
yeah, usually it takes a couple hours. But all right, I have an amazing story this morning. We've been following this since 4 months ago when Brian Hubbard and Rick Perry were on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about the Texas Ibogaine initiative. And I'm super excited as we've brought this up many times. And yesterday it happened. Texas launches the largest publicly funded psychedelic research initiative in history with a $50 million investment in Ibogaine. In Austin, Texas, a historic, and I should say this story is on Substack by Ann Claire Stapleton, who's an award-winning journalist. So this is just super independent as well. So it's just kind of cool all the way around. Out of Austin, Texas, in a historic and bipartisan move, the state of Texas has approved $50 million in state funding for drug development trials for Ibogaine, a powerful naturally occurring medicine showing extraordinary promise as a breakthrough treatment for substance use disorder, trauma-related conditions, and traumatic brain injury. With the passage of House Bill 3717, authored by State Representative Cody Harris, and Senate Bill 2308, sponsored by State Senator Tan Parker, Texas now leads the country and the world in psychedelic research investment. This is the largest publicly funded psychedelic research initiative ever launched by any government worldwide. Ibogaine is the Manhattan Project of our time, Brian Hubbard, executive director of the American Ibogaine Initiative and architect of the legislation, said, "We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the fabric of this country, and mighty Texas, in all its strength and independence, is the first state to stand up and lead a revolution in the treatment of trauma and addiction." Ibogaine is a psychoactive alkaloid derived from West African botanical sources. I forget the name of the bush right now, but it comes from a specific bush. Studies have shown that a single treatment can significantly interrupt substance dependence, reduce trauma symptoms, and promote neurological repair. Yet in the U.S., Ibogaine remains a Schedule I drug, blocking formal research for decades. Thousands of Americans, particularly veterans and first responders, have been forced to seek treatment abroad or go without. The opioid crisis has left too many families shattered and too many veterans without answers, House Bill sponsor Representative Cody Harris said. "I'm proud that Texas dared to stand up and say we're not waiting for permission. We're making history. We will lead, innovate, and fight for those who have been left behind. Lives are on the line, and Ibogaine has the potential to save them." The legislation ensures that Texas retains the long-term benefits of the research it funds. Instead of handing over value to pharmaceutical companies, the bill keeps the research and development process rooted in Texas, ensuring economic, scientific, and therapeutic returns remain in the state. This initiative was originally sparked in Kentucky, where Hubbard, then serving as the chair of the Kentucky Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission, that's a mouthful, proposed using state opioid settlement funds for Ibogaine research. Political opposition ultimately blocked that plan, prompting former Texas Governor Rick Perry to step in. "I've heard the stories, studied the research, and looked these veterans and warfighters in the eye. Men who came back from Ibogaine treatment in Mexico healed and finally whole," Perry said. "Ibogaine gave them peace when nothing else could. This medicine has the potential to free people from the grips of addiction, and anecdotal evidence suggests it may help with neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. You'd have to work hard to ignore what this medicine can do, and I won't. This is the most important work I've ever done. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that Ibogaine gets the attention it deserves." Together, Hubbard and Perry launched the Texas Ibogaine Initiative, bringing together veterans, scientists, advocates, philanthropists with a shared goal to create a path for FDA-approved Ibogaine research in the United States. This is a very long article. It continues to go on. I encourage you guys all to visit the website, click on it, go through to Substack, and read the whole thing. It's really cool. There's more going on. Now that they've done this in Texas, which hooray, this is really amazing historical plant medicine law that's been passed. And this research is going to be incredibly beneficial, as we've seen from the anecdotes. We already know this. Now it's just proving it and creating really amazing. They're going to build a facility centered around Ibogaine, which is really cool. So Texas is groundbreaking for the world, which is really amazing. So congratulations to those of you who are in Texas. I know there's many of you, and congratulations to America. This is a huge step forward for plant medicine research, and I love that they just said, we're not waiting for permission. We're going to do this. It doesn't matter. We're not going to wait for the FDA to figure this out. We're just going to march forward, and that's how it should be done. And I will finish with, as we've said before, Ibogaine is not something you get on the street. It's not something you purchase from the internet. It's not something you do for fun. And even if you do have some opioid addiction or some addiction problem, or you have some PTSD and you're hoping that you can take Ibogaine to cure it, do not take it lightly. It has to be done in a facility where they can mitigate the dangers of cardiac arrest, because cardiac arrest is very possible. This is not a party drug. This is not a fun thing. This is something where you have to be in a medical facility. And if they have the capability to mitigate cardiac arrest, it's like 100% success rate. So you do need that as part of that. And that's why this is so important that they're building this facility, because that's exactly what it will be. A facility where you can have that very reliable medical treatment and a really, really high chance, like 99% of curing your addiction or PTSD. So really amazing stuff going on. Super excited. Really excited for Texas. Really excited for America to do this. This is a very cool thing. And I'm Jesse Barney with the High at 9 News, and I'll toss it back to my fellow correspondents.
I mean, Texas is all over the fucking place, man. They're shitting all over weed. And I actually have a theory. They've got a lot of money behind this Ibogaine treatment. I wonder if that's part of why they're pushing back on something that's plant medicine that's very easy to self-medicate at home and isn't going to be such a cash cow for them. But either way, the story's good news. It's exciting. Don't try it at home, kids.
Yeah, definitely don't try it at home. You know, as I said in the chat, and I just find it interesting that Texas can be so far ahead on something like this, but yet so far back in time when it comes to cannabis policy. It's just kind of
big WTF.
Yeah. And any thoughts on this, Dr. T, Dr. Mark?
You guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, we started going into plant drugs. This is another plant drug, by the way. We're keeping that. We started looking into plant drugs because of the benefits of cannabis. So, you know, everything they said in this article about it, Ibogaine, they could have said about cannabis, but didn't, unfortunately.
Ding, ding, ding.
Any thoughts on this, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, Jesse, that you mentioned the cardiac toxicity. That's a real thing. It hits one of my favorite things, which is the herd channel. Not one of my favorite things, but this is like the way that the heart contracts and expands is through things called ion channels. That's kind of like the molecular electronics of the way muscles contract and expand. And so, yeah, Ibogaine hits HERG, and that's not a good thing to hit. So you're absolutely right, Jesse. This can result in cardiotoxicity and something that you have to be super careful with. And, you know, people who are probably predisposed to heart-related conditions. I'm not just saying chronic heart disease, but maybe like, you know, like if you have AFib or any heart-related malfunction, you'd want to be super careful, because Ibogaine is known to hit that. That's it is toxic. I mean, there is a dose at which, you'll basically stop your heart from beating. So you have to be super careful. That said, it's one of these tryptamines. We talked about this last week, right? Jesse, you keep covering stories about Ibogaine, right?
I've been following this because this has been happening and it's been going on, and this just passed yesterday. And actually got created into law. So I've been hungry for this to happen. And it just finally did. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember sitting in my office at college last week and thinking about the structure as you were describing your story. And it is related to a lot of these tryptamine psychedelics that are found in mushrooms and other places. And I guess the only thing I would end up on saying is that, you know, like, I don't know, like, I don't think there is a recreational aspect to this, right?
No,
Jesse?
No, not at all. It's not something anybody wants to do recreationally. The danger is very high. Yeah, and even I mean, that was a part of this discussion and with the law is that's one of the problems is people are leaving and going to Mexico to go to these clinics that don't have the proper mitigation for cardiac arrest. and people do die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real problem. But then the flip side is that if you have the proper mitigation in place, there's almost a 0% chance of you dying, even if you do have a predisposition. So you just really need the proper clinic with the proper mitigation techniques and protocols. And then you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is not something that it will never be recreation. I think that's part of why Texas likes this, is because there's just no real possibility for this to become recreational. I mean, who's going to take Ibogaine when you know for sure, like there's like a 50-50 chance if you do it by yourself or in some non-clinical situation where you could just die?
Zombies in California would take Ibogaine.
Yeah, they might.
They would.
But the other thing is you're probably going to have if you do and you are successful with it, you're going to stop being a zombie. Mm-hmm. So that's the weird part.
Yep. Well, this is a fantastic story, and thank you, Jesse, for keeping us updated on all this progress out there in the great state of Texas in regards with this, and we definitely appreciate it. We got to keep this train rolling. And since it's Veterans Day coming up, or excuse me, Memorial Day, which is all about our veterans, I want to leave us with a final veterans story, you guys, because Missouri veterans homes rely on money from vices, and lawmakers say it's not enough, you guys. The Missouri Veterans Commission has received $80 million from sales taxes collected from marijuana dispensaries and other fees since the state's cannabis program began in 2020. Of that, $33.8 million has come in during the current fiscal year, which began in July and ends June 30th. The money goes towards the operational needs of the state's 7 veterans homes, including payroll and maintenance of existing infrastructure, a commission spokesperson said. While it may appear that the money is a big boon for veteran homes across the state, the cannabis funds have rolled in just as revenue from casinos has rapidly dropped off, said Democratic State Senator Steve Roberts of St. Louis, who is the vice chair of the commission. The commission receives funds from the $2 fee people pay to enter a casino, he said, but those numbers have declined significantly since the pandemic. The marijuana funds are helping fill that hole, he said, but money for the state's veterans' homes remain in limbo every year. In a quote, he says, "We still need to find a mechanism to ensure that veterans' homes have the funding they need," Roberts said, because just like the casinos and marijuana funds, it's not enough, and it's forcing the commission to continue to have to go back to the legislature to ask for additional money, he says. Republican State Representative Dave Griffith of Jefferson City, who is also a board commissioner, compared the situation to a business unable to make a long-range plan. And in a quote, "The Missouri Veterans Commission can't do that," Griffith said. "They have to go from year to year to year to see what is appropriated by the General Assembly." He disagrees with House members who believe that marijuana funding is the solution, he said, and that general revenue can be appropriated elsewhere. And in a quote says, "The Senate actually has done a better job of taking care of the Veterans Commission and some of the properties that we've got," Griffith said. "It's frustrating for me that it seems like every time we want to try to do something for veterans, we're looking at vices, gamblings, and drug use." Missouri voted in November of 2018 to adopt a constitutional amendment legalizing medical marijuana, and it also requires fees and taxes generated by the program minus operational expenses to be transferred to the commission. Then in 2022, voters approved another amendment to legalize adult use marijuana with these sales, and revenues from the taxes and fees are divided between 3 causes: grants for substance use prevention, the public defender system, and the Veterans Commission. And in fiscal year 2024, the commission received $19.4 million between both medical and adult use sales, and $33.8 million in 2025. In the fiscal year that begins in July, the commission is set to receive $32.6 million. And however, future funding depends on the health of the cannabis industry, which can experience ups and downs, Griffith said. Both Roberts and Griffith said they're committed to finding a more stable funding for veterans, and in a quote say, "We're very fortunate that this is a bipartisan issue," Roberts said. "There are veterans' homes in Democratic and Republican districts, and all the senators I've talked to seem to be very supportive of this." Roberts pointed to Governor Mike Kehoe's State of the State address in January, where he addressed
addresses the underfunding of the homes and need for continued support. And under the Kehoe administration, the governor said no veterans' homes will close due to a lack of state funding, you guys. Well, that's good news that no veterans are going to lose their home because of a lack of funding. But I do find it interesting that they're really only focusing on vices to pay for these things and not other things that they could be doing that I think everybody would ultimately support. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is when we of course hate, just taxing cannabis to apply it to things. But if you are going to, this is the thing to apply it to. Sure.
I agree with you on that. But like, shouldn't we be looking at other revenue sources besides just vices to fund these types of things?
I mean, it's a bummer that they're calling it a vice, and so it's like a sin tax.
Yeah.
That language is not cool, but the fact that they're taking cannabis money and funding these veterans' homes, I mean, is there a better use of the money?
I mean, I'm fine with the use of the money. I'm just saying it shouldn't be the sole cash provider. Like, there should be a combination of things. And I don't mind cannabis tax revenue going to pay for veterans. I don't mind that at all. Not one bit, not in the slightest. But what I'm saying is it shouldn't be the only mechanism that is paying for them. Just like at the same time, the casino shouldn't be the only mechanism paying for them either.
Yeah, those two things shouldn't go together in the same topic. I mean, that's the real problem to me.
If you can't afford to take care of your veterans, you can't afford to go to war in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So what they ought to be doing is taking some of the money that gets sucked into our huge defense budget and take care of the veterans who have served our country and the reason why we have the freedoms and society that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
It pains me to see veterans, homeless on the side of the road, begging for money because our government has basically turned their back on them. They needed them when they were young and they could fire a weapon. But now that they're shell-shocked and, whatever, PTSD and addicted, they turn their backs on them. And while we're on the High at 9 news here, there's probably several veterans that have taken their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me how, I've said this before on High at 9 news, a society is judged by how it takes care of the most vulnerable of its population.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like veterans were there, some of them like after 9/11 or after whatever, just, signed up because they felt a sense of duty,
Yep.
protect, the family and the country that we all love. And the fact that our government doesn't take care of our veterans is nothing that falls back on, we need some revenue from cannabis sales. That basically says that our government has failed. You can't afford to go to war if you can't take care of the veterans that you send there.
Yeah.
Period.
I totally agree. No, that was very well said, Dr. Mark. Dr. T, do you have anything you want to throw in on this?
We lost Dr.
We lost.
T.
Did we lose Dr. T? Okay. All right.
He's got to see a patient.
Yep. Do you have any final thoughts you want to throw on this, Jesse, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, it's a split story. On one side, it's a bummer, like you said, that this being a sin tax and it being the only source of these funds is a problem. Yep. On the other side, it's better than this goes into like addiction and psychological treatments and law enforcement, which it often is.
Yep.
And that's when it gets really bad.
I agree, and I do want to commend Governor Kehoe for the statement that he made during the general address when he said that no veterans will lose their homes because of these budget shortfalls. So I do appreciate his commitment to that without a doubt. And so, happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody.
Yes, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Anthony out there in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we are off.